There we go. I'm going to lock this for now. Get this ready. I'm just checking to see. All right. How you guys doing? We'll get started in a few minutes. I'm just getting my notes out. And practice this out. Mic check, mic check. The mic should be good. I'm wondering if this is also going to my YouTube page. Let's see. Let's look and see if this is on my YouTube. Give me a minute. Early. It is. Yay. But I wonder why it's not, well, I guess whatever. Okay. Okay, let's get started here. So, welcome everybody. I'm Marissa Calderón, and I'm the founder and podcast host of Early Childhood Journeys podcast for just really to inform our community about all the good stuff that the early childhood educators are doing in their classrooms or advocates of early childhood. And we define early childhood as birth through third grade. So anybody that is working indirectly or directly with children and families within that realm of birth through third grade. Let me get I feel like I'm far away. All right. So today I wanted to just briefly talk about alebrijes and how to incorporate them while meeting 21st century skills in the classroom. And this is going to be specifically for the early childhood classroom. So if you're watching this later and you're maybe in middle school or high school educator, there's going to be ways that you can scaffold that. I'm just doing a really brief overview of this here on video for the sake of video learning purposes. But this week, if you subscribe to my newsletter on earlychildhoodjourneys.com, you'll get the full blog post with some ideas on how to incorporate those alebrije provocations. So first, let's define what an alebrije is. So an alebrije is a sculpture, it's Mexican art. It's a fantastical creature that comes from an artist, a late artist, Pedro Linares Lopez. Pedro Linares Lopez was from Mexico City, and so the story goes, the legend has it. This was like back in the 1930s. Linares got really, really sick, just really feverish, and within his dreams while he was ill, he had these crazy dreams where these animals um, were like uh, crazy type of animals. They were a dragon, maybe with a cat, or some I've seen like a whale with a bird. It was just these cross types of animals. Um, and through that dream, when he woke up, he told his family about it, and it inspired him to create these elaborate paper mache type of creatures. And the word alebrijes was actually a word that came from his dream. Alebrijes. They're not associated with any type of religion, faith. This is an art form, and originally stemming from Pedro Linares with paper mache. He was actually really phenomenal artist, creating really complicated types of piñatas, and he actually was contracted to do make these alebrijes for other famous artists, like well-known ones you probably know, like Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. So from that, that type of Mexican art form, it trickled to Oaxaca, the city of Oaxaca. They did some. He trained somebody from Oaxaca, and the folks there, the towns outside of Oaxaca, are now known for making these alebrijes. So the alebrijes there in Oaxaca are actually made out of wood carvings. It's a copal. That's the name of the wood that's down there, and they're brightly colored. Like I said, fantastical creatures. I actually don't have any, so I can't even show you guys an example. But if you've never seen them, I'm going to talk about this book. They are actually, this one's going to be better. I don't know if you can see that, but the alebrijes are a cross between two different types of animals, whether it's a real animal or like a fantasy type of creature, like I was saying, like a dragon. So it's really fun to do this activity with kids. The reason why I bring this up with alebrijes is because recently they were featured in a really famous animated film called Coco. Disney's Pixar Coco featured them in the film. If you guys remember, if you haven't seen this movie, it's not just for kids. I highly recommend it. You should definitely see the movie Coco. But in the film, these animals are incorporated in the film, and one of my favorite ones is Dante's the dog that he later gets these wings, and then Pepita. Pepita is Mama Imelda's. It's Miguel's great grandmother. That's her, what she calls her spirit guide, and I think Pepita, the animators did like 3 or 4 different types of animals to create Pepita. Like it's like a jaguar, a ram, an eagle, and I feel like I'm missing one more. So, anyways, through this movie, it sparked up a lot of conversation in classrooms, and I specifically work with right now with kindergarten and preschool classrooms. And one of the trainings that I had gone to was really interesting because some students that I worked with had talked about the alebrijes from the movie. They were showing interest. And then I went to a conference where they actually talked about how to appropriately incorporate these mystical creatures, alebrijes, within the classroom, and how to do that while still meeting your classroom guidelines, your curriculum guidelines. So giving you that foundation, that way that when you start to do this type of introduction of this lesson, you kind of understand the cultural significance of them, so that it doesn't become something crafty, something superficial. Because we want to expose children to different types of art, so that they understand that this isn't just some type of costumey, insignificant art. It's actually important type of art that represents Mexico. So next point, when we're incorporating alebrijes in the classroom, depending on the age of your students, I'm going to just be referring to our kindergarten age students. Think about first, what is it that they want to learn about them? Get their information first. It's very much student-centered and student-led. The other piece too is that if you want to help them learn more, I have this book actually called Abecedarios, and it's a bilingual book. It's a Mexican folk art ABCs in English and Spanish. So one of the suggestions is when you're exposing children to a new subject that they're interested in, having an array of books or images throughout the classroom. Like this is really cool. The monkey, el mono, throughout the classroom. So that way they start to understand and learn, get inspired for their own alebrije. Age appropriate books around the classroom, posted images of actual alebrijes as well, and maybe some of the same ones that Pedro Linares, the originator of alebrijes, some of those images throughout the classroom. I would also talk to your families about this subject. Anything culturally related with your classroom, you have that resource of your families. Here in Arizona, we have a huge population of Latino students. So asking those families if anybody happens to have an Alebrije sculpture at home, and obviously maybe they want to bring it, or if they are so kind to let you borrow it, you can put it in an area where it can be set up as an observational drawing, where the students can just take clipboard and blank printing paper, blank sheet of paper, and just start to play around with the images as far as sketching it, drawing it out. Anytime there's an interest, a study in a classroom, if it's something that can be brought in for the students to study and document and draw out and measure, that's going to lead the foundation for your next steps on how they're going to really grow an understanding and a love for this type of art. So that would be one of my first overall suggestions for that. Um, the other thing is, when we're talking about making some of these lessons, like with Alebrijes, and I just picked the topic Alebrijes because that's what I'm doing a blog post about right now. But really, any topic in your classroom, you want to incorporate opportunities for 21st century learning. So how are you going to incorporate, and I'm going to put these on the comments. Um, Hi, everybody who's jumping in. I'm going to open it up for Q&A in a little bit, okay? Let me just get this little part down. So how are you going to incorporate communication? And if you're watching from YouTube, maybe you want to write this down, but I'll post it on the comments as well. Communication. How are you incorporating creativity and innovation, curiosity, collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, community and contribution? And the last one that's always super important, if it's not already obvious, are relationships. So those 21st century skills are the ones that I usually incorporate in any of my lessons, whether it's with Alebrijes, Makerspace, STEM, your English language arts criteria, math, even, yeah, math too. How am I mixing up my lessons so that I can have students working together, working in pairs, using different types of tools, and not just a worksheet. This is very much, or most of our lessons are very much non-worksheet based. The worksheet that you use is probably going to be a worksheet to capture data. So maybe there's a student to incorporate some writing. Maybe there's going to be a student that's going to be asking, what's everybody's favorite animal? Let's do a graph. All of these are foundational concepts that can lead to creating each person's alebrije. So that's going to require some communication, right? Perhaps there's going to be some collaboration opportunities that you want to incorporate. One of the ideas that somebody had mentioned to me was using a 3D printer. So if we have perhaps a kindergartner and a classroom, maybe in the upper grades, like fourth or fifth grade, that those classrooms perhaps have access to a 3D printer. This could be a really nice collaboration project where those fifth grader, let's say, and a kindergartner are going to get paired up, and they're going to come up with their alebrije together. So now I have to do some collaboration, and I have to do some negotiating. We have to come to consensus about what our alebrije is going to look like. If that fifth grader knows how to work the computer software to do the 3D printer, then they can do that piece while the kindergartner watches, and then we can get that alebrije printed out. And who's going to draw, or who's going to paint what? An alebrije, and let me show you guys another one for some of you that are popping in. So let's say these ones are just actual one animal. So let's say that it's that purple, what is that? Like a sheep. So maybe the kindergartner paints it all black, and the older child, like the fifth or sixth grader that they're paired up with, does the spots. Let them decide how they're going to do that negotiating process. All of these, I want to mention too that all of these 21st century skills concepts come from my work with the Kindergarten Experience. That's a grant here in Arizona called the Kindergarten Experience, and it is funded by Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust in collaboration with the Department of Ed. So this is through the work I've done with kindergarten teachers. The Kindergarten Experience is a grant that is under an agency called Alessi Group that I'm contracted with. And so those 21st century skills have been just the foundation of many of the work that we do. So that's why I said, whether it's Alebrijes or whether it's Makerspace or another core curriculum subject that you're talking about in your classroom, we're going to use those criteria. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions so far. And I'm going through my notes here. And then I'll open it up for the chat. One of the things that we talk about with setting up provocations for children is what a provocation is. So we define a provocation as basically it constitutes its intentionally designed open-ended opportunities where there's common items and materials presented in a novel way, provoking critical thinking, deep exploration. I'm reading some of my notes so I don't miss anything. Integration of skills, concepts while supporting individual goals. That's why usually with 21st century skills, when you're setting up an area on a table, for example, where we're going to do a provocation on a drawing or documentation, we're measuring something. This is going to meet many times the needs of all of your children, especially your English language learners or any children that need some additional learning accommodations, much better than a worksheet. It's just deeper learning, and hopefully I convey that. When you set up an activity, so a provocation versus an activity is something that's planned, spontaneous, in the moment opportunities for exploration, discovery, reflection, and learning. Provocation is just super open-ended. So you can go back and forth from those two type of experiences. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. For me, I just prefer to do provocations because I want the opportunities for learning to be endless. And I always enjoy seeing students asking to add certain elements in addition to what I've already laid out. Oh, teacher Marissa, I want to use the Play-Doh for this, or I want to use a ruler in this area. Absolutely. It's just to spark that creative thinking. So when you're setting up these provocation areas, for example, like with the Alebrijes, if you're setting up just some very foundational Play-Doh and some materials to create maybe a model of an alebrije before they move to the clay, is there an opportunity for just messing around with the topic? Because you know how sometimes you just want to kind of mess around. If I have an interest on a certain subject area, I'm not ready yet for my final one. So it's like, think of it as several drafts before the final project is done. In what way will children be able to investigate? What are the opportunities for differentiation? What might the provocation inform you about the student? So if you are seeing that a student maybe is getting through the provocation too quickly, how are you going to scaffold that so that it's something that's more challenging or or adding to it so that student really gets some deeper learning? And then obviously, how does it incorporate all of the 21st century skills? So having opportunities for open-ended experiences while exploring the subject area, all of this creates a foundation for future innovation and creativity. Okay. Last piece. Let's see here. I don't want to give too much away because I'm actually going to be, this is a big blog post that I'm posting out on my website Um, so I just wanted to do a little conversation here and little teaser for folks. But let's see if I can open it up for anybody to jump on and have some questions. And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to give you some additional information. So, blog post on Alebrijes and 21st century skills, going a little more in depth about how you can incorporate that into your lesson plans while making it meaningful. My whole point is so that you're not taking my culture and how is it, like minimizing it. We have to do these types of experiences with respect and honoring the culture, so it just doesn't become another craft, right? And that's with really any of our cultural activities or subject areas that our children are interested in, especially in certain classrooms. I'm pretty sure you have a really diverse mix of students, especially out here in the Southwest. Okay, so upcoming podcasts. I released a podcast tonight or last night. If you haven't checked that out, it's like maybe 9 minutes talking about this subject matter, as well as some other little brain nuggets for 21st century skills. And um, I did that just because I wanted to keep this information a little bit fresh. Um, and it's something different for me to do. I usually do my podcast with a guest versus just me talking, because I absolutely do not like this experience. I like having conversations. It's helpful to reflect on your practice that way. So, some upcoming guests include Tina Martin from Southwest Human Development's Adapt Assistive Technology Workshop. So, Southwest Human Development is here, based out of Phoenix in Arizona, and they create assistive technology for children birth through fifth grade. And if you don't know what assistive technology is, this is something that's beyond uh, a tablet. It's children that have been diagnosed with some type of developmental disability, whether it's more permanent or in the meantime. And for whatever reason, lots of times there are some mass produced um, tools, equipment for kids that are not customized for them. Children grow so quickly within, you know, 2 months even. So the Adapt workshop does a customized evaluation for them. It's insurance covered. Anyways, I don't want to give too much away, but I cannot wait. So stay out in the lookout for that podcast episode where we're going to talk more about that. And then another guest I have coming up is with this really inspiring dad, Led Bradshaw from Brooklyn. He actually he has a comic book series called Jet Pulse. It's Jet Pulse Comics. His son Jake, who is now 8 years old, is on the autism spectrum. And his comics actually stem from his inspiration, his son. His son is on the autism spectrum and is fixated with um, superheroes. And he's also in the autism spectrum. And dad, Led, actually created these comics based off his son's interests in order to help him learn and read and connect with him. And from this stemmed a series of readers for children that are on the spectrum that have become available for teachers. So I think it's really amazing. I don't want to give too much away, but I'll put that information on the comments as well. So that's a couple of the folks that are coming up. There's actually a ton more. I'm just mentioning those two guests right now from the podcast. As always, check out the website, earlychildhoodjourneys.com. There's so many ways that you can help support the podcast. It's free to listen. It's on iTunes, Google Play. Really, it's on anywhere you listen to your podcast. And again, I'm just trying to highlight the early childhood field, as well as the folks that are advocating and are doing the work, so that we can provide some better funding, more awareness, and the folks that are outside of the early childhood bubble are aware of these services as well. I'm just going to open it up here. Let's see before I close this out. Thank you, Roxanne. And I'm going to check on YouTube. There shouldn't be too many people right now on YouTube because I didn't exactly post it out. Post it out. Oh. That's so cool. And I will update that. Very cool. Trying to spread epilepsy awareness for teachers and bus drivers. Ooh, well, drop the link, Roxanne. I'd love to look into that resource. I'm always trying to post that information for my followers and the teachers I connect with. So post that link. Let's see. Epilepsy Association nc.com. Okay, sorry, I have like my eyes. Oh, hello, thank you. I wonder who's doing the hello room. Is that Gabe? That's so funny. Very cool. I mean, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm going to go ahead and close this out, stop the broadcast, but I think I can still like just stay in here, right? If I remember correctly. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to stop the broadcast. Okay. Hopefully I can get more practice and do something every week. That's my goal. You too.